Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the Lighthouse Sessions. Today, we have our new friend, Spencer Mark, with us. Spencer, why don't you tell the audience a little bit about who you are and what you do?
Thanks so much for having me, Jeff. My name is Spencer. A little bit about me is I'm I'm a man that is really fascinated with the exploration of himself. I've been just enthralled with the whole process of helping guide men from just being externally controlled and being more internally guided. And so I'm a man who's just innately curious about helping men through that, because that's exactly what I'm doing as well. Uh, my background is in health and wellness coaching, but I just really felt that there was just something lacking and something missing there, like kind of a soul to it. And my training, my yoga training, I received in Rishikesh, India. I've found a way to really integrate both the coaching and the yoga combined to really help men really, instead of this working out idea what yoga is or what men think they need to do at a certain time in their life, it's more of this working in. So I really like using these tools to really help excavate a man's true meaning. It's somewhere there in the middle. So it's probably one of the hardest questions a man could probably ask, like, who are you? Like, even this question that I'm getting from you is like, oh God, like, where do I even begin? Where do I start and where do I end? So that's a difficult question. But I'm just a man that is realizing more and more of himself, and I realize I'm at a stage in my life to where I want to give all that I've learned through coaching, through the stuff that I've learned through my own education. And through the science and philosophies of yoga, and just continually give that to really help my fellow brothers and grow, so they can help their mothers, their sisters, their wives, and so that's where I'm at. That's who
I
I am.
love it.
Yeah.
Well, welcome to the show. I think one of the standards of my audience, we are seekers. We're always looking for something. And, for me, it was fascinating because I've spent my whole life looking for this enigma called inner peace. And when I stopped looking, I found it inside, and I went, oh, that was literally right there in the title.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Yeah, it could be it's really refreshing. It's just life really good, just reveals itself in very funny ways, to where it's just out of sight. Then something can happen and you look and the answer is just right there in front of you, or you start to feel that answer. And I think that's the big thing, is what I work with men, is really working on their own body awareness too, because a lot of those answers are within and held within the body. And a lot of living is done from the neck up. It's just right here from the neck all the way up, 95% of our living. And I'm guilty, and maybe there's people out there that are guilty of living inside of their head a little bit too much. So I'm opening up the conversations and giving men permission to pause and to realize that there are answers from the neck down, more than we're probably aware of. And from that place, they can begin to start to be aware of that they have choices, that they're aware that they can actually choose and respond to certain situations rather than reacting. A lot of situations come up where men are reacting in their life. They might be a bit, defensive when it comes to, perhaps conversations that turn into arguments with their spouses or with people that are closest to them. It's usually the people that are closest to them that they have the biggest issues from time to time. But to just really help people choose and understand that the only thing that they really have control of is their attitude in any given set of circumstances. Kind of what Viktor Frankl talks about in his book Man's Search for Meaning. So becoming aware of that can be really life-changing.
So tell me about your personal journey, because I think one of the things people always ask, oh, how did you get enlightened? And I said, well, I just encountered enough resistance that my soul cracked and I had to do something or end it. And I chose a path forward. So what put you on this path? I mean, we all are seekers from birth, it seems, but what put you on this particular path?
Yeah, I appreciate that question. And that getting cracked open, and what's cracking us is typically the hard stuff that we deal with in life. And that's where a lot of my experience comes from. I mean, there was a time, it was probably around 20 years ago or so, where I can just remember being in my fifth house within a year, living on a mattress on side of a floor, living on food stamps, estranged from my kids, who were about 3 years old at the time. I was all alone, and not much to live for. No power in the house at that time. I just had a bicycle, not answering my mail. Things were pretty rough. I knew I was bottomed out, and it was really in that moment that I decided, look, I'm looking at the corner of the room and I'm seeing the only thing that I had of value, I think, was a weapon at that time. I thought, well, I could use that weapon. And I distinctly remember looking around the room. There wasn't much else because it didn't have any TV, but there was this old book of yoga philosophy that I had been carrying around for probably 5 years from an ex-girlfriend who left it with me. And I never gave it a read because I thought I was honestly too dumb to read philosophy, but I always thought it would be cool to have a book of philosophy in case somebody came over and said, wow, this guy's deep. He has a philosophy book. And I decided, well, let's read this book instead. And it was something about it when it opens up that I opened it up and it was like the book was reading me, and it helped me understand that all the pain and all the suffering that I was going through, it had a meaning and a purpose, and that this was my path in moving forward to help. Like, I was on my way to some form of enlightenment. There was something that triggered within me as like, there's something here. And it wasn't long after that I had gotten connected and formed a relationship with someone that took a job in Tokyo and decided and wanted me to tag along. And so I left that situation and then moved to Tokyo with my girlfriend at that time. And through a series of events, I got my life put back together to where I got custody back of my girls. I started to kind of build myself back up. And I got to a point where I was like, I started to do a little bit of yoga as a way of just coming to myself, but it was really the philosophies that really helped pull my interest into it. And so I decided, there was a time where it was opened up to me. It's like, where do you want to go study this? If you want to, maybe you should teach this. I decided, look, if I had any place I wanted to go, let's go to the birthplace of it. The place was Rishikesh. This is where the Beatles actually went to get their motivations to make the White Album, I guess. So I thought that was cool. It's right on the Ganges River, tucked away in the Himalayas, really picturesque. So I ended up going there. I went with my girls at the time. At this time, they were about 9 years old. So I took them to yoga training with me, and they hung tough the entire time. So we did a little bit of over a month of learning not just postures, but what was really interesting is understanding the philosophies and understanding that there is a system in place that's thousands of years old that helps a person become self-realized. I had no idea that this was part of yoga, but I'm learning that there's actually 8 limbs of what makes yoga, and that a lot of people only understand there's just the one is the movement, but there's this entire set of observances that you do for yourself personally and within a social life that was just so eye-opening. It's like, here's a base foundation of how best to live your life that just spoke to me. More people need to know about this so they have a base foundation of how they can live up from that.
Well,
and so
it's
Yeah.
fascinating, if I can interject, that
Yeah.
the older traditional, I'm going to say Eastern cultures in general, and East relative to you and I today, but
No.
a lot of the older cultures, they all talk about mind, body, spirit.
Yeah.
In a lot of the traditions in the Eastern medicine, you've got the chakras, and yet in the West, we're all about the brain and living in
Yeah.
our heads. So
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. It's fascinating to know that, um, you realize more and more that mind is body and body is mind, and soul's all interweaved inside that. In Eastern traditions too, like the symbol, the kanji symbol for the heart, or for mind, is the heart. So mind is all over. It's hard to point to the mind.
yeah,
We know we have one, but this is your brain, or this is actually your skull. Like what is the mind, right? So understanding that those are, so just it just and so melded together as one. You start to understand that, your thoughts become things, and we understand that. uh so coming through that experience in India helped me understand a lot of the past hurts that I've been through. um I grew up in a very small town, kind of a ranch town in Salmon, Idaho. There's a population 3,000 people. You have one stoplight there. And I lived under a lot of pressure to perform as a man. I lived under the very intense rule of a very stern, I'd say that's putting it nicely, father, but he was abusive, an alcoholic, because he had his own demons he was dealing with, come to find out all these years later. And so there was a lot of physical beatdowns, but it was a lot of emotional beatdowns too. And I learned early on that it was not safe to share opinions. It was not safe to really be myself. So I really had to kind of act out the part when I was in school of being in the overactive kind of class clown to get in some kind of attention. But even school was a difficult time as well too, when you don't really fit in. If you're in a small town, the cliques are very few, so it's hard to find it. You're either popular or you're just nothing. So it was real difficult growing up and not having any sort of identity. And so when I did my study and understanding what this really means, that to understand yourself, it just opened up a whole new world for me. It's like of just complete curiosity. What if other men could understand who they are at their core? Because I understood, like, growing up in a very small town, I did rodeo and ranching and football, and I did all of those things. And I noticed a lot of posturing, people one-upping each other in conversations, but no one's really speaking from the heart. No one's really speaking real. There's no emotional connection, come to find out, now that I know what I'm looking for all these years later. But that is what really I started to understand in all my travels from India to Tokyo. Lived in Germany for a time, and I was just looking for experiences. And my training went from yoga into coaching, and more into the health and wellness realm. And then I picked up a job working for a musculoskeletal pain company. So helping people through chronic pain and injuries through their backs, and basically all joint pain, and understanding there that pain is not necessarily like tissue because of tissue damage, but it's really a lot of emotional damage that people are dealing with. If they're hiding a lot of stress, if they're not moving their body enough, understanding too that back pain is an affliction that millions and millions of people are dealing with on a daily basis. And the cause of that are the thoughts that they hold of themselves, the stress that they're dealing with, the tension that they hold. And we would guide them through. This company is now a publicly traded company, and they're doing very well for themselves. But really what they do is they really educate them on how your mind is involved with the pain that it is that you're experiencing, And the best way to move through that is through movement, stretching, moving your body. That their term was movement is medicine. And I worked there for 5 years and really got a good understanding of, what a person's lifestyle and what their thoughts and how that is reflected inside of the body.
I love
So that was
that.
really good time there.
And how did that journey, because you mentioned that you took your daughters with, how was it different for them? Because I'm guessing they went there with one version of their father and came home with an entirely different version.
Yeah, that's a really great question, and something too we'll have to continue to explore. And it's probably one of my what happened. I'll tell you what happened there, and I'll tell you what the aftermath of that is. That there was this expectation of the girls to do yoga, to keep up my habit of doing yoga, and I really threw myself deeply into it. So I had these expectations of my girls to continue, because a father wants their girls to, I don't know, I think in a way I was wanting them to follow my footsteps. If I can contribute anything, is like I helped teach them yoga and I took them to India. And so I had these really kind of unrealistic expectations of them to keep up the habit. And regretfully, I pushed a little too hard on that. And then they stopped doing it. It got to be kind of a chore. So what I've learned after this is that after the fact of all of this is I should have just allowed them the space to feel out themselves as well. And the last thing you want to do is push enlightenment on people, because that's what you're feeling. And I think a lot of, when I look back on it, is my own fear that kind of drove me into making sure that they did this. It was my unsuredness. Is this right? Am I good enough? Am I good enough as a father if I let them not do it? No. I gotta push them. And it just drove them away from it. So it's been some years now where I've just kind of let go and let them figure out and do their thing. But that's what I learned. I think when I came back even enlightened, but in a way there was still this alpha drive that was still within me when I really take a look at myself,
I call that early enlightened, because when you find it, you want everybody to find it too. And it's like, it's right here. One thing I found on my journey, and I had a lot of wonderful people who guided me. I would ask the question always, how do I help my wife? How do I help my kids? And it got really annoying, because they'd say, well, you got to work on yourself. And I'm like, yeah, I'm doing that. And how do I help my wife and kids? And now I'm like, oh, you do the work yourself.
Yeah, exactly. And everything else emanates from that, right? Yeah. And
it's a fascinating journey. And I think a lot of people, and we're going to talk about why people don't take the journey, because I think a lot of people don't seem to know what the first step is, but they're also afraid of what they'll uncover inside. One of my friends, he wanted to go on a journey of discovery, but he said, my greatest fear is that the blackness inside me is everything, and I'm imagining that I'm a good person. And it was just a fascinating, he was a diehard atheist when he started, and now he's very much spiritual, and he's recognized that you can't have dark without light, and you can't have light without dark. So
he sounds like he got in tune with his shadow. And if you're probably familiar with shadow work, there's those parts of us that we repress and deny that grows that shadow side. And it's quite a thing. It's pretty empowering once you understand that this is a part of you, and these parts came up to protect us in life. So no matter how much we try to demonize them, it really just backfires. And something really changes and switches when we can really turn into ourselves and accept ourselves for our faults in our experiences, and just really learn from those, and finding ways to integrate those, so we have more capacity to be with ourselves. And the more capacity that we have to be with ourselves, obviously we can be with others and and there is situations and there are issues, because when they come to us with issues, we want to be able to have the room to allow them to express themselves without us feeling guilty that, oh, I don't have the answers right now, and you should do this and you should do that. It's just lay it on me, how it is.
Well, and on my journey, I think the biggest thing was recognizing, because again, once you get a little enlightened, you get, oh, I want more. And then you want everybody around you to find it. And it's like,
yeah,
if they're not ready, they won't find it, no matter what I say.
Right. Exactly. We had an instance like that too, where there was a time in my life where I was vegan, and that was the thing to do. And I just got really ramped up and excited about it, because here's a way that number one, it was a way for me to lose weight, I thought at the time, because I growing up, I had a lot of weight issues I had to deal with. Come to find out, it was more I would eat to soothe myself. It was like this emotional roller coaster that would be with me and my eating habits. So I thought, let's try veganism for a while. And so it was kind of like this gospel I was spreading around. Here's how we can help the planet, and you can be a better person by not eating animals. And it took a little bit of time for me to pull myself out of that kind of this ideology, when I understood my biology was hurting. After 14 years of doing this, my overeating and the diet itself was leading me to pre-diabetes. And so it was only until I got a job. I got a job as a metabolic health and wellness coach after my job working for a pain company. And we were trying out those CGMs, those continuous glucose monitors you put on the backs of your arms for this company. Yeah. So we were helping people with diabetes and insulin resistance. And I noticed, it's like, wow, I am actually in line for pre-diabetes. So I need to take a look at what I'm eating and what I'm doing a little bit more closely. And that's when I started to incorporate more animal products into my meals. And I just kind of saw for a long time, I was really blinded by an ideology more than my own biology. And that's another clue that I got in my journey of, it's important to listen to our bodies and not just get caught up in, we should be doing this thing because it's the right thing to do. Well, that might be outside of yourself. What works for you? What food works for you? What, what lifestyles are working for you? So that was another step in my journey, is letting go of that and the gospel I was spreading at that time. So it's funny you bring that up. That brings up a whole other part of my life as well.
I love that. And I think it's fascinating to see how, we all learn and evolve. And, for me, and once upon a time, Tony Robbins had a television show made. I think it was like a one-off sort of thing, but it was called I'm Not Your Guru.
I saw that. Yeah.
I kind of, at first I was like, I'm confused. Are you or aren't you? But what I realized, and a quote that finally made sense to me, was, when the student is ready, the teacher will appear.
Yeah.
And I realized that we got to stop looking, and we are the teacher. And instead of saying, okay, I'm going to apply, this is what Tony says I need to do to be healthy. Yeah. You need to look inwards and say, okay, what do I need? And often it is aligned, but the fundamental problem is, people will join movements, they'll join fitness, and then they fall out because they weren't following who they were meant to be.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think a lot of people aren't even aware that's what was happening. They just felt off with it and thinking, it's my willpower. My willpower is not good, and I'm a bit of a loser, or I got to just try harder. And that's a big part of the population that I serve too, is you get caught in these old systems that these systems of whether it's getting healthy or establishing well-being, we're at a point where we really don't trust ourselves. And that's what the trackers show, like the fitness trackers and the watches and the CGMs, and then stepping on the scale, is we're looking for an external idea of what's happening within our body, within our experience. And it's really the only way that you're going to understand what you can do with your food, what you can do with your health and your well-being and being whole, is being quiet enough to really listen. That's what makes meditation so powerful. That's what makes the movement practice, meditative movement, so powerful as well, because it gets you in touch with yourself. And the biggest problem we're dealing with this day and age is distraction. It's an age of distraction. And then it's an age where boredom is cured. And boredom is cured with what? This.
Devices.
The phone, the device, and there's no more boredom, right? And so you find people scrolling in a way that just a mindless scroll, and I'm guilty of that as well. And the idea here is to build enough awareness to where you can come back to the moment, pay attention to your breath, and realize, okay, what do I need right now? You know, what's in it for me?
It's fascinating because I've learned a long, long time ago, I don't resolve problems that I'm pondering until I get bored and my brain checks out and goes and explores and I daydream. And then all of a sudden I have these insights. So it's, I think that the phones actively harm our brains because we're not exploring ideas the way we used to. We have instant answers at our fingertips, and some days we just need to ponder. Now let's pivot slightly, because I know you have a program you're launching or have launched. Let's talk about what working with Spencer looks like and how people can explore what you're doing with helping men support other men.
No, I appreciate that. Yeah, it's an amalgam of everything that I've learned within yoga and the system of that, along with my training as a coach. And what I put it together, it's called the Marksman Method. It's helping men choose where their life is aimed, instead of this drifting. And overall, it's to help men just move in the direction of their calling, move in the direction of their North Star, move in the direction of their values, and getting really clear on what that is. So the first part of my program, you can imagine kind of like this roadmap of this mountain. The first part of this program that is the North Star. It's the image, is building a solid image of what it is that you hold inside of your mind that you're moving towards. We all have a self-image. We all have an idea of maybe what our ideal looks like, where we might be in our lives, but we want to work on a complete felt sense of your ideal version of you. And so I built this acronym of IMAGE, to where we understand what a man's identity is, how he wants to identify himself through a whole being sense. Like, how does he see himself working towards his purpose? What does his physical health look like? Let's take a look at his intellectual well-being. What are the things that he's wanting to learn and grow from? And then his relationships, what do those look like ideally? What is his ideal identity? What kind of relationship does he have with himself and others? And then that last piece is really understanding his emotional well-being, and what is his ideal identity? How do they react to tough situations? How do they express joy? And and they got to understand that emotions are a huge part of our well-being here too, because they really help move us. You can take the word emotion and you take that E off of emotion, and what are you left with? Emotion. It's movement. So getting clear on what that identity is, and underneath that, the M, we work on a metabolism. And so when we think of metabolism, we think of, okay, this is the energy that's powering our cells. Well, there's also energy coming in from our experiences in our world too. So it's getting really clear on the food that you enjoy eating. And we all understand that what healthy is for you and what food works for you. So this is not a diet plan type of thing. This is finding what works for you and tuning into the body, what gives you good energy, getting good sleep, managing your stress and using stress to your advantage instead of letting it use you. And then, of course, some movement practices, things that you can do each and every day that you like to do. If that's stretching, if that's yoga, if that's any sort of movement. And then understanding the A of images and awareness, building a greater awareness. Again, we talk about choice, your choices in how you speak to yourself, your choices in the decisions that you make. It's a big one. And you can go deep into awareness. That could be a very big thing. And then we get into the goal setting, which is working on self-concordant goals. This means these are goals that are of value to you, not what someone else says that you should be doing, but values that really align with your strengths, and to where you really start to have that sense of autonomy. Like, you should be excited about these goals. When we hear goals, we think, oh, I know I should be going to the gym. I know I should do something like this. Chuck all that. What excites you about life? And just like working towards that. And then that last piece is an embodiment piece. So we want to embody this with a practice to where we get a felt sense of what your ideal image is. And this is where the yoga section works into. So not only am I teaching this and a lot of the philosophies we come to and a lot of positive psychology and the studies of happiness, but we're really getting into the bodies as well. So besides the one-on-one coaching, what I'm offering is kind of a hybrid course where we learn, we get coaching, and then we work together on the mat and introduce these movements that connect the learning with the body. So it's a felt sense in your nervous system of what your image really is. So yeah, that's the biggest piece of it right there. And
I
yeah.
might be misspeaking here, but my understanding of yoga is it's a moving meditation. And I think one of the things that fascinates me about yoga, and for the record, I'm not one of those bendy people who can touch my ankles around the back of my head or whatever.
Yeah.
But I do find, and I think what I see that has been missed, the typical North America, we saw yoga and we got on board and said, hey, look at this great fitness move. But we've missed the mind, the body, and the breathing part that pulls it all together. And I think a lot of people, myself included in a younger age, we saw yoga as something to be endured. It was, I was a weightlifter, a power lifter, and I was told take yoga so you're more flexible. And I was like, I don't want to do this. This is not fun. And it never helped that I always had some ridiculously flexible instructor who could wrap a leg around the back of their head. And I'm like, I was not built for that. But I think if now as I'm older, I see chair yoga and I don't laugh anymore because yoga is yoga.
It's true. Yeah.
But it's just that bringing the breath into the body and experiencing the body. And I think a lot of people, they want to avoid feeling, so they stay up here. And by the way, that's the number one problem with cell phones, in my opinion, is they can keep you up here.
Yeah.
And you can pretend that, I feel things. I was watching a movie and I watched this little puppy growing and it was cute. And it's like, yeah, but did you really feel it? You rationalized it. So, so what is the first step for somebody? How do they find you? How do they connect with you? How do they learn about your program?
First step is just simply connecting on a call. It's a free call to where one-on-one private session to where we just have a conversation and to see if this is the right fit for you. Because one thing I want to disclose is the number one thing when I say the word yoga, either something comes up of only ladies doing yoga, wearing Lululemon, walking to class with their Stanley mug, or people putting their ankles behind their heads, and that's so not it. It's just any sort of movement. The yoga that I teach it's something that I've been developing for over 10 years. It's something different each and every time, in just slow, easy movements that anyone can do. And I meet you where you're at with no expectations. If you could do this, you could do yoga. If you could sit down, you're doing yoga. And I meet you where you're at, and we just continue to move, because it's all about cultivating a deeper relationship with yourself and connecting that with the movements. Is putting your mind is like, okay, you're going to bring your arm up and notice what's happening on the back of your shoulder. And then your mind is going to go to the back of your shoulder, and you're going to realize, I have my whole back that I'm in control of, and I can change my posture. And over time, you're going to find, I'm walking around out there in the world and my posture is changing. And people react a little bit differently to me. If I'm in a meeting, I'm exuding more confidence. I'm feeling better about myself. Wow, what else is possible? And what we do is just a series of discovery about yourself. And that's what's so cool about it, is like there's no book saying you're going to experience this now, you're going to experience that now. Everyone has a different journey, and that's what we explore together. So I'm the guide to take you through that, and one of the only ones that I know that not only are we doing the coaching piece, but we're ingraining that with the yoga as well, to really get you where you need to be, to figure out who it is that you are. And if you're at all curious on who you truly are, instead of performing for others or managing or doing the things that what society has told you that you think that you need to do, if you're curious on dropping all that and getting to the core of who you are, what could you do? What would be possible for you? What could you teach? What could that teach other people? What could that teach your kids without you really having to say anything or push them or drive them? You being you entirely. To me, I'm too fascinated by it to let go of it.
I love it. And for what it's worth, my people are always open to meeting new people and learning new things, because I think we've been, and I'm going to blame the self-help age of the 80s or 90s or whatever it was, but it was always go find your guru, and now it's like, no, look within, you'll find it. And I traveled around, and I've been in many places looking for peace, and I'm like, you mean it was right here all the time? But you're so busy looking for it, you don't find it. So
you bring up a great point, and a big piece, and I'm on YouTube as well. I'm at Spencer Mark on YouTube. I can share that with you, so maybe your guests can see that. But a big part of my message is helping men become self-led, and that's really the biggest thing. So it's kind of a weird, I understand the kind of the weirdness of it, is like, I'm not really asking for followers so much, but part of my message is to really stop following and start leading yourself, because you can't follow your way to your own enlightenment. I mean, to your own sense of purpose, that you really have to get in touch with yourself, like we've been talking about. So it's all about this journey inward. Like, again, working out with me is really working in. So
I love it, because it's a real mind bender until you experience it, and then it's like so self-evident you can't not see it. But
and that's the part where you're like, oh my God, this is here the whole time, I got to tell everybody.
For what it's worth, I have a friend who spent 20 years helping me find myself, and I'm like, you must have just been laughing your butt off, because I was so close, and I could academically, I got it. If there was a technique, I learned it. If there was a meditation, I knew how to do it. And he'd always say, Jeff, you're doing it wrong. And I'd be like, but I'm doing it exactly as you said. And he's like, no, that's part of the point. You're trying
too much. Do you remember a point in time to where you realized, where you had that aha moment?
And what was probably about 2 years ago, where I finally went, oh crap. And it was a relief oh crap moment, not a holy but it was probably about 2 years ago, and once you see it, you can't unsee it. But it was that moment where, and I'm not kidding, I can find the time, because I went back to my mentor, one of my earliest mentors. I messaged him, I think I sent him an email that said, Rick, I finally get it, I'm sorry, and I'm here. It was and he just laughed. He said, I knew you'd get here eventually.
That's joy. Oh, I love that. Congratulations too, by the way. And I know you're not done. I think with what you're doing here with this podcast, you learn a little something. We were talking about this earlier. You learn a little something from each and everybody, and we're not done learning. Still growing.
The biggest thing for me, and in this, I thought I was on this planet to teach my kids and to help them. And now I realize that they're here to teach me. And it's, for me, and again, this journey, it's now about curiosity. And, a lot of people want me to define where I'm at. I'm like, it's above my pay grade. I'm just here, and I don't need to figure out where here is relative to X and Y on some success chart. But when you find inner peace, it is amazing because it's always there.
Yes, inner contentment. Absolutely, getting back in touch with that. Yeah. So,
you've mentioned your YouTube channel. Where can
yeah.
people? By the way, if you want to help Mark out, don't go to YouTube and type in @SpencerMark. Go to Google search and say YouTube @SpencerMark. It actually boosts the algorithm for Spencer. Little weird trick I learned along the way.
Yeah, it's @Spencer, and then there's a dash in there, and then Mark. So that's exactly how it looks.
And where else can people connect with you or learn more about the work you're doing and how they can support you?
No, I'm also available on Substack as well. So I put a lot of my you can go to spencermark.co. And that's where you'll learn a little bit more about me and the Marksman movement. I'm also, if you're into more long form content, I write articles on Substack where we really explore, like, kind of the emotional depths of what men are going through in midlife and what to watch out for. This is more of my own internal thoughts about health and well-being for the midlife man. I share it on Substack, so that's @SpencerMark there as well. All of those links are located in my YouTube channel though too, or if it's all the links that you'll need to go. Even my own podcast on Spotify, all of that is at spencermark.co.
Awesome. Well, thank you for taking your time to hang out with me today, Spencer. It was a pleasure, and let's just say it was enlightening as always. So thank you.
I appreciate you, Jeff. Thanks so much for having me, and thank you for all listening.